Hey everyone, how you doing today? I'm Kirsty, and on today's video I'm going to be taking you through the history of how I annotate and tab all of my books. I've gone through some very different variations and I've had a lot of changes to the way I approach reading and what I do. When I very first started reading back in 2019, I basically just read the book, put it down, put it back on the shelf. But then I found that when it came to doing reviews and recollecting bits that had happened and quotes, I just really struggled, or I spent forever skimming through the books to try and find the quote. I then watched a couple of videos. I think it was Reading with Chloe and Books with Brittany. I watched their videos on how they annotate, and at the time both of them were very heavy on tabbing. And Books with Chloe, she also wrote in the books, which at the time, like 3 years ago, baby me thought that that was absolutely sacrilegious. I was horrified and I would have never ever written in a book. So I decided to try tabbing as my first option. And so with tabbing, you basically use sticky tabs to mark out in the book different things, and you can create a key. I at the time was using the exact same key no matter what the book was. I had the same colour scheme, the same code. Unfortunately, I didn't write that code down. So both of these books, I've got all these tabs in. I can vaguely remember, I think there was like one where it's if I laughed. I'm pretty sure blue was a quote. Yes, blue meant it was a quote. So for this one, if all his failures were a C, then he was drowning and the omerta was the ball and chain dragging him down to rock bottom. So I remember that. I remember I had if it moved me to tears or made me really emotional. I had one for if it made me laugh. And then I had ones that were like for really good atmosphere or really good writing and characterization. But I can't remember what any of them were. And I also found that I don't like the look of the book when it's tabbed. The only reason I've not taken all of the tabs out of these books yet is because I want to go back through, eventually reread them, and I will actually use the method that I use now, which I will talk about in a little while. But then what I also did is if I wanted to make a note, see if I could find any of them in here. If I wanted to actually make a note about something that I'd read, I would have a slightly bigger tab or a sticky note. I don't have any in here, but I would have, say, a tab that was this size, and I would stick it on the thing and I would write on the tab what it was that I liked about that bit or what it was that I felt or saw or the quote. But like I said, the tabbing system worked, A, if you can get it to look nice, and B, if you remember to write down the key in, like, even if you just did a sticky note in the front with the key in, that would be really helpful, because now 3 years on I have no idea what I was tabbing. So that system worked for me for about 6 months, and then I decided that I was going to go back to my old ways where I just read the book and then I had a notebook that I had on me at all times. But then that required me constantly having a notebook on me to make notes and be able to write down my thoughts and feelings. And I also used the Bookly app for about a year, that you can time how long you're reading for, and it also has bits on there where you can press quote and you can actually mark quotes and make notes as you're reading, which I did for a couple of books, including Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha Nyan. I wrote down a couple of the definitions just to help me remember. But again, that required me, if I wanted to pick up a book, I had to have my phone or a notebook with me. And it kind of put me off wanting to pick up books, because it'd be like, oh, I'm sitting on the sofa, I'll read. Wait, I can't, I need this. So it kind of felt like I was stuck with it. And then I carried on after that. I think I did that until late 2021, and then at the start of 2022 I went through my separation. I moved home and I just read for reading's sake. I just used Bookly as the timer. I didn't really make any notes. I occasionally would put tabs in just because I wanted to remember a specific thing for a review, but I had pretty much stopped reviewing by that point, and I was just reading to enjoy the books. But then when I did the Magical Readathon back in April, I decided it was time to get back to doing it properly. So that's where the third iteration of how I structured my sort of reviews and tabbing and tracking came into being. And that was highlighting and actually writing in the book. I got over my fear of it. I started with Nalini Singh Silver Silence because I was like, I know I love this book, so I don't mind highlighting it because there's always so many good quotes in Nalini Singh's books. And then you can see I've got like Loveless, I've got quotes in here and highlights. But then I came across a problem. And that was when I was rereading Weird Sisters by Terry Pratchett. Now, you know me, I really want to love Terry Pratchett's books, and there's no reason why I shouldn't love them, but I do not enjoy them. And I got about a third of the way through this book. I'd done quite a lot of highlighting. I've got a lot of notes, and there are quite a lot of fun elements in the book. So I've got like this bit, and I've got, when I go through, you can see I've got highlights going all the way through, but for some reason I just don't enjoy it. And now the problem is I can't really unhaul this because no one's really going to want a book that someone's drawn and written in. So it's kind of one of those, I'm now stuck with a book that I don't particularly want. And I thought, well, what happens if I get a book in the future that I really do not like? I don't want to just get rid of it. So that's where I came up with my final iteration. This is the one, I'm only actually on my very first book using this system, but it is already working for me. And that system combines tabbing and highlighting. So what I've started with Cafe Con Lychee, I've started with tabs. I've got the tab, and then I've written my note on here, and I've written notes on the tabs and highlighted what the quote is. And then once I reach a point in the book, which for this book I have already reached it, but whether it takes me to the end of the book or halfway to the book or even a chapter in, once I reach a part of the book where I know that this is a book that I'm going to enjoy or that I'm going to really want to highlight and make notes in, I will then switch to my highlights, and I'll go back to the tabs that I've already done, highlight them, take the tabs out. So at the end of the day, I will have a book that looks like this, but has all of the notes and all of the highlights of this. And I found that I started this last night and it worked so well because I was just making notes as I was reading. And now I'm like, okay, this book has ADHD rep, and I've read a chapter from each of the main characters and I'm really liking, well, one of them I really don't like currently, one of them I really do. So I was like, well, that works really, really well. And I find that this method for me just is really nice. I know there are some people out there who are still probably watching this and absolutely horrified at the thought of putting a pen to their book. But honestly, it's actually really freeing. And now that I've started doing it, I find that it doesn't matter what book I pick up. As soon as I pick the book up, the first thing I do is pick a pen up. And I had to stop myself yesterday from immediately starting to write in the book. So I was like, no. Just in case we don't like it, we're going to tab it and then eventually decide whether we're going to go through and highlight it. Like I said, I've gone through a bit of a progression over the last 3.5 years, where I started off with just tabbing, then I moved to the notebook method, then I moved to the trying to use my phone and apps method, then I went back to just reading for reading's sake, then I tried highlighting and annotating directly into the book. Now I use a combination of using tabs initially, but if it's a book that I really want to talk about, whether it's annoying me or I'm loving it, I know that I'll then go back through and I'll just fill in with my pen and then have a really nice highlighted copy of the book. Yes, it adds extra time, but I just feel that it will make me like doubly reflect. And it'll also be really nice because when I go back and highlight the bits that I pointed out, it'll just remind me of the bits that I really liked, which will help when it comes to doing my reviews. So that is my current method. Let me know in the comments, what is your method for doing this? Like, are you a tabber? Are you a notebooker? Are you a read and don't really think about it? Or are you a little bit like me and you're also I'm combined type ADHD, I'm now also combined type annotator for my books. Let me know in the comments which one are you, and have you gone through any iterations and tried different methods before you settled on your current one? And if you have one that's even different to what I do, again, let me know, because I'm always interested in trying new methods and trying out what works best for me. This one works best for me, but it does still have its limitations. Like, it means that I need to always have sticky notes on me and a pen on me, and I don't always have those. Which is why generally now I make sure that I always have an ebook or an audiobook. So if I find that I want to read, but I don't have the right tools with me to sit and read a physical book, at least I know I've got the Kindle, my app on the Kindle, and I can just highlight and make notes on that. That's my history of tabbing and annotation. Who knows what the future is going to bring, but I think for now this is the method I'm going to be sticking with because I really like it. I am going to head off. I hope you're all good. I hope you're staying safe. Don't forget to put in the comments what your method is, and if you've got any suggestions for how I can improve on it, let me know. And I will see you guys on the next video. Bye!